Hello and welcome back to Wyoming Watch from the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. I'm Noah Zahn, your state government reporter here. This week I'm sharing a conversation that I had with our staff photographer, Milo Gladstein. And he told me about what it's like working behind the scenes at Cheyenne Frontier Days, something that most of the hundreds of thousands of attendees that come every year never get to see. Here's that conversation now. All right, so now I'm here with Milo Gladstein, our staff photographer, and we're here to talk about the past 2-ish weeks of Cheyenne Frontier Days. It wrapped up over this past weekend, and you were pretty busy over those 10 days of the rodeo. Can you tell me a bit about what that looks like? You know, what kept you busy all that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover Slack, which is kind of the week before the rodeo. They changed it up this year a little bit, but give or take the week before the rodeo. So it's really more like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks for us by the time we've planned everything and covered Slack to the fullest extent that we usually do and that kind of thing. And then during the actual rodeo, because I'm the only staff photographer, we also hire a freelancer. And we usually switch off days for the rodeo, so, you know, we can have a break and cover the other things that we need to cover for the paper besides just the actual rodeo itself. So that includes any other news assignments, the pancake breakfast, parade, anything like that. So our air quotes days off are not actually days off. They're full of all the other things that we're doing. So I covered Slack by myself, and then I covered 4 of the, whatever it is, 8 or 10 rodeos. Mm-hmm. And then we had a couple of freelancers help out as well. So very busy.
And can you explain more what Slack means?
Yeah, so Slack happens before the actual performance. It's kind of extra people that don't make it into the performance, and there's a few coveted spots each day, which people can compete for to eventually make it into the actual performance.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of people that visit Frontier Days may see a lot of people with media passes or with cameras running around, or maybe they just kind of blend in and don't even notice them. Can you tell me a bit about what those people are doing usually and what that looks like, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so there's a ton of different media covering Frontier Days. There's news outlets like us at the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. There are PRCA photographers and videographers. CFD itself has their own PR team to be able to put out their own content on social media and that kind of thing. So they have their own crew as well, plus any specific people who are there. So sometimes Cowboys have specific photographers shooting for them, or like when the Thunderbirds are here, they have their people who need to be in to do their media things. So it's this whole conglomerate of people running around with cameras in different capacities. This year, they actually made a change where they decided to not allow freelancers to cover Frontier Days, especially on the photo side, because last year there were over 300 freelancers.
Wow.
And that was incredibly busy. And even like in the photo pit, which is right across from the chutes where the rough stock comes out, you had to get there very early, claim your spot, and guard that spot with your life last year. And this year it was much easier. I mean, I think the busiest day in there was maybe 8 or so of us, as opposed to last year there was easily double that, if not more. So
yeah, and you know, I've never been. I've always wanted to go in there. Can you tell me a bit more about the pit?
Yeah, so the pit is really special, and it's something that's unique to Cheyenne Frontier Days. It's directly across from the buck and chutes, and there's a stage on top where they do the buckle presentations at the end, and the Native American dancing happens in the beginning, and that kind of stuff. But underneath that is actually underground is this big, I mean, it's literally a pit. It's just basically a concrete box. And the opening is right at your eye level is right at the dirt. So ground level is your eye opening. So you can stick your camera out or kind of shoot within that range. And all your photos are right at ground level, which makes for a really unique and special photo.
Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to have too long of a lens if a bronc comes by and steps on the end of that lens there.
Yeah, so that happens.
Really?
Yeah, so sometimes the horses and the bulls get a little wild, and they come at, like last year we had a bull jump on top of the pit.
Oh,
we had a horse jump on top of the pit, and that's a whole experience. You're sitting up there and there's like a ton bull on top of me right now, and I really hope that this is built well and doesn't cave in. Or like it happened a couple times this year and last year where we had a horse go down right in front of the pit and start kicking into the pit and kind of got to step out of the way.
Yeah.
And so that does happen.
Yeah, I guess that can make for some pretty good photos then.
Yeah, absolutely. When they come by, a lot of times when the pickup men are trying to wrangle the horse after a ride, they come literally right next to the pit, and you can get some really special wide-angle photos from there. It didn't happen as much this year, but last year there was a lot of opportunities for that.
In another kind of behind-the-scenes thing, I guess, that a lot of attendees won't see that you were telling me about was behind the chutes. Can you tell me about what shooting back there is like?
Yeah, so that is a really special place. For me, that's my favorite place to shoot. I love the pit. The pit is really great. My only gripe with the pit is that it affords you one shot, and you're stuck in there the whole time. And you get one really good shot. But at the end of the day, you end up with 7,000 of that one shot. Yeah. And all the people standing right next to you, you're shoulder to shoulder, are getting the exact same photo. And so for me, especially as our local media who, we've covered this event forever, as the photographer, I'm trying to look for something new, something exciting, something that people don't normally see. And I find those moments happen more behind the chutes, where you're not shoulder to shoulder. You kind of have to fight for your position a little more back there when you're up on the chutes. And there are moments when all the stars align where you can really get some magic behind there. Behind the chutes, is where all the rough stock cowboys are getting ready and that kind of thing. So there are great photos to be had of people taping up and, putting on all their gear, everything they need, and stretching and warming up. And, I've had some of my best photos I've ever taken, rodeo or not, have happened behind the chutes at CFD. And the big thing, too, this is a good time to bring this up, is people go to the rodeo every day. They see the rodeo. They know what rodeo is. For me as a photographer, and especially as the newspaper photographer who we've covered this event forever, you're trying to show somebody something different. You want the viewer to see something that they wouldn't normally see and draw their attention to that moment. And a lot of those moments happen like in the cowboy ready area behind the chutes where people are getting ready, they're stretching, there's a kind of calm before the storm moment. And you're really trying to capture the emotion, right? So we need the action shots, and those are great shots and whatnot, but I try to go for the emotion and the energy and the vibe of what's happening, behind the chutes, I think is sometimes more interesting. And it's something that most people don't get to see. They just see, that cowboy out there for 8 seconds on the back of that bull, but they don't see everything that led up to that. They don't see the moment of, they may be in the stands and they may see him climb over the gate onto the back of that bull, but they're not right there. Most people don't ever get to see that and stand on the back of the chutes 6 inches from the cowboy. And so those are the photos that I think are really powerful. And you're giving the audience a different view that they don't usually see of that moment right before the gate opens and what all happens back there.
And so, other than just that artistic and journalistic instinct combined with, right place, right time, finding that, as you said, magic in those photos is seeking out that emotion. Is that your top priority usually whenever you're trying to, find those photos that show somebody something new?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the best photos kind of combine all of those elements into one shot. And my favorite photo this year from CFD, I got from behind the chutes. I was standing on the chutes, and it was during the bareback event. One of the cowboys nodded his head, gate opened, horse went out of the chute, and he, horse bucked him around, ended up doing like kind of a spin and coming back towards the chutes. And so I got this photo of the cowboy maybe just a couple feet from me, but like full on, like you could see the grit and the emotion in his face. His legs are flying up, the chaps are flying, like you can, and it's not even like a full body shot of the horse. You can kind of just see the horse's back and his hand is grabbing the rigging. And you see that emotion, and you see, the big thing about sports is conflict. That moment of conflict and action and the fight. And that photo represents peak action and peak emotion all in one photo. And that's kind of where the magic happens, I believe.
Yeah, I know. And if we're thinking of the same photo, you can almost see the emotion in the animal as well. You know, that conflict you were talking about, you can see both sides. And is that the one that got picked up by, was it The Guardian? Or
Yeah. So part of what we can do here at the Tribune Eagle is we're members of AP, the Associated Press, and we run a lot of their stories in our wire sections, and sometimes they request photos, and we can also submit photos to AP as well to be used around the world. And so I had spoken to them about giving them a few photos each day to help them out, and they help us out in other ways. And so you kind of just submit into the wire service, and it either goes somewhere or it doesn't. And most newspapers have an AP subscription, meaning those photo editors can go through and pick photos and see everything that everybody submitted to the AP for each day. And so that photo that we were just talking about was picked up by The Guardian as one of their best photos in the world for the day, which I believe was July 24th or 23rd.
okay.
And I had submitted a few other photos that had gone to the Sunday Times in England. And then there's, I forgot the name of the publication, but the biggest newspaper in Argentina also picked up a couple photos. And so that was really cool and is good exposure for the Cowboys. It's good exposure for us at the newspaper and for me personally as the photographer as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you more about, you know, kind of behind the shoots and in the pit, you know, with those other photographers there. What is that relationship like? You know, last year you said it was a bit more crowded, but is it kind of competitive, or is it like we're all in this together? Do you guys not really interact much?
Yeah, so it really depends on who you're with each day. In the photo world, there is a lot of competition, and some people get very territorial about this is my spot, you know, kind of thing. And while that is their prerogative, I don't believe in that. Personally, I'm here to have a good time, help people out, make sure everybody gets what they need. And, you know, especially in the pit, you're shoulder to shoulder. You're all going to get the shot. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really think that there's a need to fight with people in there. And we're all friends. Yeah. We all know each other. And we all hang out all day. I mean, you're in the pit for 5 hours together every day.
Sounds very pleasant.
And yeah, no, it's a blast. And so we all try to help each other out and help each other pick photos. And, you know, you get very close with everybody. You become kind of a family, and it is everyone in it together. And even behind the shoots as well, like you try to work with people like, okay, you're in that spot, I'm in this spot. Maybe we'll switch halfway through or something. And that's how I personally operate. I like making friends with other photographers, and, you know, I think we all have a lot to learn from each other, and I don't think there's a need to be territorial. However, some photographers are like that. I didn't really get a lot of that this year. But in other places that happens a lot. But this year was great. We were all a tight-knit group, especially because there were so few of us this year. We were all kind of a little family of photographers this year, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And I wanted to go back to, you know, you talked about your favorite photo from the rodeo, and I wanted to ask you about your favorite moments, whether that moment is capturing that photo or that camaraderie with the other photographers you were just talking about, or maybe, you know, interacting with some of the athletes or organizers. Do you have a favorite moment, or maybe a couple that stick out to you from this year?
That's a good question.
Or favorite experience, maybe, rather than a specific moment, if it's not just one thing.
Yeah, Frontier Days is great. It also goes by in a blur. In the snap of your fingers, it's all of a sudden it's over. And so just working with the same volunteers every day and working with the same photographers, as I said, you kind of become a little family. You look forward to seeing each other. And being the only staff photographer at the newspaper, I don't interact with a lot of other photographers. And so this is one of the times a year where I get to actually hang out with other photographers a lot. And I love that, you know, and we bounce ideas off each other. We shoot together. We push each other. And, you know, we have fun little friendly competitions and stuff. And I love that. And just having a front row seat to the biggest outdoor rodeo in the world is something that's really special. And being able to make images of the best cowboys in the world, the best horses in the world, like is a true privilege and an honor. And I love every second of it. One thing for me this year that I really, really loved was I got to photograph the Thunderbirds during the air show. I thought that was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life.
Really?
It was so fun. I wanted to do it forever. And there's been a couple opportunities to shoot an air show in the past. And, for a variety of reasons, I never got to do it. So this year was like, I was like, this is my year. I'm doing the air show this year. Come hell or high water, I'm doing it. And I loved every second of it. I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I got images that I will probably print and put on my wall, and gorgeous photos.
Mm-hmm. And knowing your next goal is going to be to get them to take you into the planes to shoot from up there.
I really hope so. Really, really hope so.
Yeah. That's about all I had. Is there anything else that you want to share about your experience? Just want to talk about, or maybe advice. This is your second CFD. Advice for other photographers if you have any of that.
Yeah. I don't want to repeat myself, but I don't know. I think it's just, this kind of goes hand in hand with the advice, but also things that I enjoyed is just trying to get creative and capture unique images that maybe people haven't seen. And the emotion, I think, is really important, in the energy. And instead of just, you think about it, this idea of, how do I want to say this? Everybody believes they're a photographer nowadays with their iPhones. Everybody walks around with phones in their pockets, and everybody takes photos all day long. Mm-hmm. Our job as photographers is to do more than that, to get a step above. And so if you take a photo and it looks like something somebody could get from their iPhone, I always try to push myself to go a step beyond that, mm-hmm. and get a unique image. And instead of just capturing, this is what happened here, capturing the emotion, capturing the energy, capturing the people, the horses, things that can give people a sense of what actually happened there and what it felt like to be there instead of just what happened, I think is really important.
Yeah, is that sort of where the line is drawn between photographer and photojournalist, or is that a separate category as well?
I think that should go for photographers in general.
Okay.
I think that's good advice and a good way to be, but I think especially it's important for photojournalists. Because we are capturing these moments in the community and in moments that revolve around social justice, or if you're at the rodeo, this is a very big cultural event for the state of Wyoming and for cowboys all over the world. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to really capture what's going on. And so I think it's especially important for photojournalists. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing, too, is, as a photographer, never to take it for granted, mm-hmm. that we really do have the coolest job in the world.
I'm very jealous of some of the stuff you get to do.
It's
sometimes not too jealous, but sometimes very jealous.
It's really cool. We not only are we photographing the rodeo, we're in the camera pit that most people don't ever get to step into. We're behind the shoots. We're hanging out with the cowboys. We're, on the pad having the front row seat to the Thunderbirds. And, we covered a night show this year, getting access to shoot photos of Ian Munsick, the historical first Wyoming native performance at CFD. That was a really big deal, and it was an honor to be there to cover that. And so when you put all these experiences together, I think it's a true honor to be a photojournalist, and it's the best job in the world.
Now, are you off to shoot more rodeo at the county fair, or are you taking a break for a bit?
I will be shooting rodeo at the county fair, and I think we still got a couple Hell on Wheels left.
Yeah.
So our local rodeo series, and really looking forward to covering all of that.
Great. Well, that's good to enjoy it rather than get tired of it.
Right on.
But I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in and chatting on Wyoming Watch about your experience at Cheyenne Frontier Days. If you want to check out the photos, just scroll through wyomingnews.com. Is there a better place to find that? Or?
Yeah, they're on the, if you scroll down to photo galleries,
okay.
They're all in there.
That's right. Yeah. So scroll down to photo galleries, check those out, find that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Now, here's our arts and entertainment reporter, Taylor Staples, to bring us a roundup of some of the events coming up in Cheyenne and Laramie County this week.
Today, August 1st, Pine Bluffs Trail Days is going on through Sunday with events today starting at 1 p.m. at the Pine Bluffs Pool. Then the Laramie County Fair is taking place until August 9th at various times at the Event Center at Archer. The full schedule for that is online. Also, this is the last weekend to catch the 69th Old Fashioned Melodrama at 7 p.m., both tonight and tomorrow, and at 2 p.m. on Sunday, all at the Historic Atlas Theater. Then, Fridays on the Plaza will be at the Depot Plaza tonight starting at 6 p.m. On Saturday, August 2nd, there's a Tour de Donut Safari bike ride happening at 9 a.m. at Cahill Park on Dell Range and Friendship Circle. Also, True Troop has 2 more performances of the Greek tragedy Antigone at 6 p.m. today and 10 a.m. on Sunday at the Holiday Park Treehouse. On Sunday, August 3rd, there's the annual Ride for Sight event at 6:30 a.m. starting at YDOT headquarters on Bishop Boulevard. Also, a Mud Factor 5K and obstacle run begins at 10 a.m. at LCRA MX Park on Thunder Road. On Monday, August 4th, the library is hosting a jewelry making event from 2 to 3 p.m. And on Tuesday, August 5th, the National Night Out will be held from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at multiple locations around Cheyenne, including the Little Bear Inn, the Archer Event Center, Liberty Park in Burns, the Laramie County Fire District No. 3, and more. Then, the second to last Cheyenne City Band concert takes place at Lions Park starting at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, August 6th, the library is hosting chair yoga and poetry at 11 a.m., a Story Garden Community Art Project bookshelf making event at 4 p.m., and a knitting basics workshop at 5:30 p.m. And finally, on Thursday, August 7th, a Pixel Perfect Mastering mobile photography event will be at the library at 6 p.m., and also, pig wrestling takes place at the Laramie County Fairgrounds at Archer at 7 p.m. For the full list of events, go to wyomingnews.com.
And before we wrap up today, here's a recap of some of our top stories and headlines from the past news week. The Wyoming Highway Patrol has entered an agreement with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, including collaborating with local sheriffs and assisting in arresting undocumented immigrants. In a news release sent out Monday, Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon announced that he had formalized a 287G agreement between ICE and the Wyoming Highway Patrol. A local fire chief and his wife have been charged with felony aggravated child abuse and conspiracy for their alleged treatment of their 13-year-old adopted son. Charges filed Friday indicate that Laramie County Fire District 1 Fire Chief Derek Middlestadt and his wife Angela Middlestadt purposefully deprived their son of food and socially isolated him. A Cheyenne elementary school teacher was booked into the Laramie County Detention Center on Monday after accusations arose of him inappropriately touching his female students. According to an affidavit with the Cheyenne Circuit Court released to the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle on Thursday, Brian Rell, a 55-year-old fifth-grade teacher, was charged with 16 sex crimes. Wyoming Secretary of State Chuck Gray said that he is exploring the option to run for governor of Wyoming or for Wyoming's sole seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, saying that he has been strongly encouraged to run, though no official announcements have been made yet. It is unlikely that Gray would challenge Harriet Hageman, the current representative, whether she sought. It is unlikely Gray would challenge the current U.S. representative for Wyoming, Harriet Hageman, whether she sought re-election in the House or ran for governor. A heated meeting Wednesday continued the ongoing discussions of whether to let Wyoming become a host for nuclear waste sites. The debate ignited when one company, Radiant Industries, identified a site in Bar None, a town of 3,000 people north of Casper, as a place where they want to temporarily store its nuclear waste. That's all for this week's episode of Wyoming Watch, so be sure to check back next Friday for more, where we'll be sharing a conversation that I had with Cheyenne's Director of Community Recreation and Events about some of the work his departments are doing in the town and upcoming projects.